You are entering a safe space. Please take a moment to center yourself and allow every thought, worry, and care to fall away right now. Focus on taking deep breaths and allow yourself to feel the healing freedom that is waiting to be ignited within you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your healing space, providing you with hope and inspiration as you become more connected to yourself. Your safe vessel, helping you move to a higher consciousness to reignite your voice and discover who you are destined to be really inside you. I am Isabel Draughon, your host. I am also an author, entrepreneur, and a life transformation and spiritual coach. Most importantly, I am a perpetual student of life, just like you. So let's explore together. Claim what is already inside you. Welcome to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. This is your healing space. I am your host, Isabel Draughon. Welcome to another episode in our season 3. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. If this is your first time, please subscribe and share with your friends and family. We are excited that you are here with us today. I'm excited to be here. Have a little bit of a cold today, but just keep it moving. I'm just having a conversation, so there's no way that I would not do the podcast. Something is happening, but all is well. We have Duane again. We have my husband again on here, and we're going to continue our conversation and continue more conversations with him, with myself, and all different type of hosts that will join the Loud Whisper podcast. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm getting used to the different angle. We switched sides. We shot 2 podcasts with me on the left, you on the right. Now we switched. And so now it's just a little different angle. Yeah. But I'll get it. I'm going to
be more comfortable because you're a lefty.
Yeah, I think you're right. I actually feel more.
Last year, not last year, the last podcast, I felt like I was falling off, but now I feel much more centered.
I think I feel more comfortable over here, but I tell you what, I can keep an eye on the equipment a lot better from here. So I can keep an eye on the computer, the camera, and monitor everything from here. So, since we don't have a sound tech yet, but we'll get one soon. Hey, thanks for having me.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah. Same to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm good. Whenever I have a week where there's a lot going on, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think, I did last week. I didn't travel, but I flew. I rode the bike. Yeah. We went out to eat. We did the football with Devin. Yeah. We had our meetings with the staff. So as long as those weeks are like that, it's typically a good week for me. I mean, there's always a lot going on.
Yeah. It's a lot going on. And I find myself doing a lot more resting on the weekends than we used to. Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of that. I have a little guilt feeling sometimes when I sleep in to like noon or something on Saturday, but I never do that.
Yeah, I don't anymore because for me, rest is part of my growth. It's part of my self-development. So just the way I work out every day, right? I'm starting to incorporate rest. I'm starting to put rest in that same category because I've realized that when I rest or when I'm in solitude, there's so much that comes up and I'm actually creating more space for myself. So I used to feel guilty, but I don't feel guilty anymore. That's just society's thing of making us think that we constantly have to be doing and moving in order to be validated. But I actually feel really refreshed and good when I rest. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so give yourself grace with that. It's part of the process.
Okay.
Yeah, at least I think. It's kind of like you plant the seed and you're like, you got to water the seed every day and you're looking every day. Is the mango tree? But it takes years. Things need to evolve. Yeah. And I think we take that for granted as a society as to how powerful it is to rest, especially being entrepreneurs. We get decision fatigue.
Yeah, we don't work typical normal hours. Like it's like our morning is what 4:30 for us, and then it's the workout, the solitude. Then on the way to work, you're getting the reports on the way to work. I mean, you haven't even made it to the office yet, and you're getting the text, the emails, and the calls, and then you get to work, then you work all day until you don't get done. Like you get done at 5:36 and you're still dealing with work on the way home and everything else. So it's always like that.
Yeah, it's that. So just excited to be here on this day to record. There's so much to talk about. There's just so much to talk about. But I wanted to talk about the first episode that we dropped. And it had people contacting you in the sense of, wow, I felt that way. Talk a little bit about that. Because I've had a couple of people contact me about that. I'm like, oh my goodness, that just hit home. One of my family members, she actually listened to it and she's like, I don't even know why I'm crying. Obviously, this hit me in a different way that I didn't even think about it. And this is the reason why we need to have these conversations. This is the reason why I believe storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to be able to transform people's lives, because you get to hear the reason why I think that a lot of us don't even go through the transformation period or just the journey itself, because number one, we're afraid. We're afraid that we're the only ones who've experienced what we've experienced. So then we become ashamed if people knew that I've experienced this. But with what I do, what I've come to discover, and this is becoming more prominent each time I talk to people, do the work that I do, I go out speaking, storytelling is so powerful. It allows people it gives people permission to say, wow, I'm not the only one going through this. So maybe I can start the journey of healing, because there's more than me going through this. A lot of us do not heal. A lot of us don't talk about our life experiences because we're encompassed by shame. And shame is so powerful. For a very long time, I always tell people my name was I felt. My name should have been Isabel. I'm ashamed of who I am, Drawn, because of my life experiences. But I thank God for giving me this thing of where I just want to be free, and me being free is by me sharing my stories. And the more I share my stories, to be honest with you, I feel free. I feel like just life, I can just be myself. But it's a hard thing to do, because when you share your truth, it's a lot.
Well, when you share your truth, there's a price to pay.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is a lot of people don't know what price they're going to pay.
Yeah.
And then the other side is a lot of people are not willing to pay a price.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not willing to do that. Like one of the things, like when I went to the Tony Robbins, it wasn't Tony Robbins, it was Mel Robbins. I was listening to her thing, and she said human beings are like what are those wolves, and they operate in a wolf pack.
Yeah.
And so what happened is, in order to be, say if you're pursuing of happiness of your success or money, or even acting or rapping, anything of something different than what you were raised in your peers, you sort of have to pull away, and then you're out here in the world on your own. Yeah. And a lot of times survival is really hard. You mean to survive on that? Yeah. Like the podcast that we dropped last week, there is a lot of men who sent me messages and say, hey, man, I felt the same way. Oh, wow, that was powerful. You said that. Hey, man, one guy hit me up and sent me I even sent you a screenshot. He was like, dude, that was like, I felt like I was just getting therapy. You mean, in the whole thing. And to be honest with you, it's still wild to me that you and I are even doing something like that. Like when we came together to put the podcast together, this is like 2 years that you've been talking about doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know how to work the mics and together. So a lot of Podcast University, we said, let's go do it. And then we sit down. It's like, what do we talk about? And what do we talk about? And you're like, okay, let's talk about these topics, not knowing what they're going to do to society, what they're going to bring.
Here's the thing. This is a health and wellness podcast. For those of you that know me, I'm all about humanity. I'm all about healing. I'm all about self-development. That's what the Loud Whisper podcast is about. It's about being. It's about us talking about our trials, our challenges, what we've been through, how have we overcome, right? How did we get to where we're at? How were we able to navigate, either you and I, me, myself, or even my guests that come onto the show? It's really about living. It's about life. The thing about living and about life, when you're being honest, you have to be vulnerable. But when you're being vulnerable, vulnerability brings what? Truth. Your truth may not be necessarily the truth for everyone else, right? Or your truth is what will set someone else free. I tell women this all the time. You don't have to tell the whole world your story, but when you share what you've been through, you could be setting someone else free. And ultimately, I don't care how much money we make. I don't care what you own in life. We're all ultimately looking for freedom, to be ourselves, to know who we are, to understand why we're here. What is our purpose on earth? Where are we from, right? That's what we're all ultimately looking for at the end of the day. So I feel that I'm saying at the end of the day, that's my daughter. She's always like, Mom, at the end of the day.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day. But anyway, so ultimately, I think that's what we're all seeking, is the freedom to be. But a lot of us cannot find the freedom to be because we don't know who we are. But in order to understand who we are, we have to start unpacking. And this is what Loud Whispers about. It's unpacking the things. It's not only bad things, it's good things, amazing things, right? But it's the duality of light and dark. So there are times when we'll be talking about unpacking these hard things, and there are times we'll talk about how we got to the other side. So today I just wanted you to dive in a little bit deeper and explain to us, what are the men talking about? Like, wow, I didn't realize. I'll tell you what I got from some of the phone calls. What are men telling you that they got from our first podcast and they're really excited that we're talking about these things?
What I heard a lot was vulnerability, was being really vulnerable to speak your truths and things like that. There was a spot where I was talking about like being loved.
Yeah.
And it was really amazing to see that a lot of people reached out and said they had those same feelings. Yeah. Now you got to understand, it's feelings. It may not even necessarily be a true thing, but it's feelings. And it's how I feel, it's how they feel, and it's how people feel. And it doesn't, and the thing is, it's not negating that somebody was bad or somebody was wrong or this side didn't do their job or whatever. Those are just based on feelings and what were portrayed. Like, you can still have been loved. I was talking about shown love. There's a difference, like there's a huge difference of being loved and being shown love.
Yeah.
And but here's what it really unpacks, something big. This actually unpacked something really, really big, really powerful, is that a lot of our lives that we live is really based on our community.
Okay.
And so what happened is, if our community is going to a specific church, we're forced to go to that church. If our community has a belief in a political party, we're forced to be a part of that party. Here's something that I've really starting to know. If our community has a certain way of finances, of what their jobs are, what their kids are to do, that, believe it or not, the whole community is really forced on doing that too. I saw it in the movie White. Actually, it was the movie White Tiger that really opened me up and exploded me to the different caste systems, whatever. But that last week, that comment created some dialogue that really opened me up. And it really made me realize that we are a lot of times forced to be a certain way in our communities if we want to be accepted in our communities. We're forced.
So is that what people were saying they got from that, or people necessarily got from the fact that, wow, I don't think I was loved or felt that?
No, I don't think people got that part. That was my aha moment, because I received a specific phone call about some of the comments that I had made, and I thought were very inappropriate. But after I got through it, I realized that, oh, wow, it's a bigger thing than that phone call. It's that your peers want you to stay exactly the same way that everybody else is. And if you start doing things different, if you start being something, that they are not, they will alienate you. They will destroy. And if they can't destroy you, what they'll do is they'll try to destroy the narrative. And here's the funny part. This is actually the funny part. They'll actually tell everybody around them who are still striving or not doing or not doing what you're doing, how bad of a person you are while you're out doing good and building and raising and helping others. And the people are all agreeing, and they're still not doing anything that you're doing either anyway. So it's pretty interesting. Like I said, it was an aha moment for me. It really opened me up. It was actually a higher level of growth. I can't believe that what I said grew me up even more by the reactions of what I heard.
I believe it because that's what vulnerability does.
Yeah.
That's what truth does. Truth brings awareness.
Yeah.
Right. And then you start seeing things from a different perspective, like, oh, this is the reality. But just like what you're saying is that a lot of people don't talk about this is because of the taboo, as you're saying, to be able to talk about these things. Like people are not talking about how my youngest son's friend was at the house this morning. And what did he say? He said, oh, I felt that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like 17. So that was really powerful. There are a lot of people moving and navigating through the world without knowing what it feels like to be loved.
Yeah.
Not that you will never love, to be shown love and to feel love. One of my girlfriends said that for her, she felt that we were doing an amazing thing, especially being vulnerable and talking about our relationship and marriage and just you in general, talking about how you felt. She felt like this is needed. Because here is the thing. Most of us don't realize that we show up in every aspect of our lives according to our environment, how we were raised, or what we feel, what we do not fear, or our truth or our unspoken truth. See, a lot of us live life through our unspoken truth, and that's why I always talk about the mask. We never realize that we're all walking around with this mask because we're afraid, like you, to speak your truth. Yeah. Right? Because it's taboo.
Yeah, it's a stage play. Like we're putting on a stage play every day. And this is straight up real. Like we're putting on a stage play every day, we're trying to sell people on who we want them to see us as. And some of us are burning inside. Some of us don't know there is another level of life because, I mean, you and I were, I would just say, lucky that we were able to attend events to understand, the human nature, how we think. There's a greater life. And if you think better, think different, there's limiting beliefs and stuff like that. We actually were able to attend these things and do mental development on ourselves to become better people and better understanding. And a lot of people are not. So some of what we're saying to them, they're hearing it for the first time, which when I heard it was for the first time. But they didn't even know that you could think different. Like I bet you a lot of people, even listen to podcasts, don't know that all you have to do is really think different and your life will start getting better. Like a lot of people don't even realize that, like having different thoughts about becoming a better person. They don't realize that, but it comes back to this community-based thing, how you were raised and how you're brought up. If you don't stay in that circle, your family or your peers, they will all out destroy you. They will try to destroy you. They will try to destroy your character.
They'll walk away from you. I know that. Mm-hmm. But and here's to that. That's extremely powerful. It's interesting you say that. For me, that was so real, right? And you're absolutely correct, especially being a recovering people pleaser. That means I still do it, but I'm just aware. Nowadays, I remember one time I told you this about 2-3 months ago, and I was just writing on a notepad, and my question to God was, where is the source of my pain? Please show me the source of my pain so I can heal through this, so you can help me heal through this. I had an idea. I understood it. I could comprehend it. And that's why I always tell people the mind, while it's a powerful thing, it can never comprehend what the heart knows. And that's why even God says your mind, the subconscious mind, is your heart, most of your decisions. But as I was writing, and anybody knows when you're journaling, they say, just write, just write, just write. And God showed me that the reason why I have the same problems in most of my relationships is not because of the other people. It's because of the way I am showing up in the relationships. because I was not healed enough to understand that I had to show up a different way. So the way I was showing up is because of that whole environment, right? That thinking that what God showed me was when you first get into all these relationships, friendships, whatever, siblings, whatever, intimate relationships, you give everything of yourself. You just give everything. So what happens is that once you start doing that, you have to keep that up. When you start doing that and then you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. People start looking at you like, what? So it's not always the other people, it's how I was showing up. So I had to start creating like those boundaries to be able to protect myself. I had to start creating those boundaries in order for me to grow. So the thing about community and about society is I think it's powerful that we have to start discussing these things. We have to start to talk about what you said. Because of not feeling loved, it was an issue in our relationship. Mm-hmm. For me, because of always feeling abandoned or not belonging or rejection, that was an issue in our relationship. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But I cannot not speak of these things because I'm afraid that the people around me or the people, quote unquote, who are close to me or who are supposed to be close to me will lose their mind. That means I'm not living my truth. Yeah. I'm not talking about anybody else. What I'm doing is telling you how I feel. And the reason why you and I are able to come to this space, because now we're able to have these conversations. Like we have these honest conversations of this is how I'm feeling and this is what's happening. I had to become that. I couldn't be a victim all my life. God had to show me that I'm a victor. But as you're starting to become more free and really identifying with yourself and understanding yourself, sometimes your freedom can really disrupt other people's spirit because they're used to seeing you a certain way and they're used to you being a certain way. How dare you try to become someone different?
Yeah, that's, I want to say that's, I've seen that a lot, like a lot. That's probably almost another episode or a lot of unpacking. Okay. I've seen a lot in just life in general. I noticed that because I grew up in a certain community where we went to the same churches, we ate the same type of foods, we ate the same thing. There was just a recent event where I actually sent a really, really nice message to a family member. And I mentioned something about, hey, I was diabetic and I was killing myself on food. And let's create a dialogue on how we can help the family eat better, focus more on health, lose weight. There was just a nasty comment back towards me. And I'm like, wow, I wasn't really trying to chastise anybody. I was really just trying to help. And I said it in a very professional tone. It wasn't, you know what I mean, the old ram it down your throat type thing. It was a very honest way of doing it. It was brushed off and it was sort of like, I mean, there's some words said about me. And I'm noticing that has been a lot of life experiences. Yeah. And there was an event, like I'm sort of known for the guy who will go off and beat on his chest. And more I realized that I'm actually, that's something that it's feeding that type of anger. I remember you explained it to me, and it's like it's like a little boy screaming out inside, and it's like, okay. And I think what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be this way that everybody has said it's supposed to be. Why can't we take this path? You mean, like, I remember.
Why can't we take the healing path? Yeah. Why can't we take this path where, like you're being vulnerable, really, and being man enough to say, look where I'm at, because you have a lot of people who look up to you.
Yeah, a lot.
Right? A lot of people look up to you, especially, you know, like from where you started and all that stuff. And I like the idea how everybody always wants to be. What does Lauryn Hill says that? Lauryn Hill says that In order to be used by God, you have to really be used by God. Everybody wants to be on stage and have all these people, right? And say, oh, I'm stage. No. But sometimes you're going to be knocked off. Sometimes you have to be humble. So I say that to say the fact that you're vulnerable enough to say that has allowed other men to say, wow, maybe I'm not loving my wife the way I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
I don't know what it felt like to be loved.
Yes.
Maybe I'm not showing my daughter this affection because nobody showed it to me, and this is a simple, oh, it just came to me, especially in our community. A week ago, I don't even know why I'm talking about this, but it has everything to do with it. 50 cents. Out of all people, I'm talking about 50 cents on my podcast.
Don't get 50 Cent on our podcast. Trying to say we owe him some money.
No, but 50 Cents had his son on his lap and they were talking. The comments on there, you would not believe it. Why would you have your son on your lap? And da 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 da. It goes back to that. When you've never known what love looks like, it's never going to look like anything real for you. And I remember going on there, and I normally don't do comments. Remember, I always tell you, I don't follow up with these comments. I don't do that. But it bothered me so much because especially in our community, I'm like, this is an oxymoron. This is ridiculous. So this man has his son on his lap, showing him affection, and the society is saying he's too grown to be on your lap for you to show him affection. But then we're the same people who say our Black men don't show us enough affection. So where are they supposed to learn it from? Where are they supposed to learn this from?
It's supposed to magically happen.
And I went on, and it goes both ways, whether it's men and women. It goes both ways for women. We've not been shown this affection. The difference with women is that God gave us this natural, innate thing because we're nurturers. But God didn't tell us to nurture on survival mode. And that's why we nurture with frustration sometimes, with anger and resentment, because we're nurturing on survival mode. We're constantly on survival mode. But I thought it was quite fascinating that our own culture, our own society is beating this man down for showing this young Black boy affection, right? But then we complain that we don't get affection. But who is supposed to teach us? I say that to say, we're going to talk a lot more about this because I do want people to feel. I do want people to feel affection. I do want to see whether you're crying, whether you're laughing. I want people to experience those feelings. I think we don't even talk enough about feelings because somebody may be going through something and you say, what's going on with you? Oh, I'm so angry. Really, that's just basic vocabulary. It's deeper than that. It's like how I was explaining to you about the little boy. I said the reason why sometimes you can find yourself going from 0 to 1,000 is because of the unhealed little boy inside of you, because this is exactly what happens. I learned that because I was doing that. You find yourself in a confrontation, then when you walk away, you say, man, why did I react that way?
Yeah.
I'm too much of an adult. Then you start feeling stupid. Like, why did I respond that way? I should be able to articulate this better. I should be able to communicate myself better. I should have enough emotional intelligence to be able to respond. But the things that we have not healed, the little traumatized boy or girl inside of you is going to show up all the time because they don't know, they're not adult enough to be able to filter that anger, to be able to understand all they're thinking of is protection. So that's why you go off. Well, I go off or anybody. You just start going off. Then when you walk away, you're like, damn.
They got me again. Like, dang, they got me again. Yeah.
And that's why at the end of the day, you have to know yourself. The foundation of knowing yourself is very crucial.
Yeah. Yeah. But, it takes a lot of work to know yourself because what does that mean? Like, what is that like? Here's something I do. I actually got it from you. A lot of the air travel that I do, and I'm sitting on the seats and I'll talk to people, whether it's male or female. And sometimes if it seems like it's a great conversation, I'll start digging and I'll start doing some loud whispering, some Super Soul Sunday. And one of the questions I ask are like, who are you?
Yeah.
And it's wild that they all go to what they do.
Yeah.
They all go to their careers. And I'm like, no. Who are you? And it's like, oh, yeah. I want to be here. I want this position. No. Who are you? And most of the time, that question can't be answered.
No, we cannot be answered because we have been conditioned to identify by what we do. And when we start talking about who we are, guess what we talk about? We talk about our feelings. And talking about our feelings is taboo in our society. Talking about our feelings means you will hear a Duane say, I never felt love growing up as a child. Mm-hmm. That's why we run away from that.
So what you're saying is we avoid talking about our feelings. Oh, wow. Because you will get persecuted. Yeah.
It's a matter of being persecuted. It's either you be persecuted or you're ashamed of your own journey, right? Or you're ashamed of who you think you are, the person, or sometimes you're not even aware of who you are. I'm telling you, I did an event where I spoke to a room, I think it was last year or the year before, full of CEO, powerful women. And I asked the most simplest question, answer the question, who am I? Answer the question for me. Like you, everybody else talks about what they do. Mm-hmm. This lady, she was actually running for one of the offices in the town. She said, I can't believe that I'm actually running for office and I'm having a hard time answering this question because we have been conditioned that our value and love is based on what we produce.
Yeah. What I learned is that people, you know how people ask you, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I see that a lot more at networking events for other reasons. But the first thing they'll ask me is, what do I do? And what they're really doing is they're not really worried about what I'm doing. They're trying to figure out the level of who I am and how they're going to respect me. That's what they're trying to figure out. So a lot of times you actually hear, I'll tell somebody I'm a bum or one of my things I was doing, I was an Olympic swimmer. Like I would make stuff up. And I mean, obviously now being a pilot, I'm a pilot, but even when you say that, they want to put you in a job as a pilot. Yeah. No, I'm a pilot. Just because I'm a pilot doesn't mean I have a job as a pilot. Yeah.
Oh, that's how we are now. We identify by accolades. I mean, you have seen it. Yeah. You've seen that. You've experienced that some of the people in our circles, because of who they are, their accolades, they feel like they're a certain level, you know what I mean? Or these people are a certain way, or these people, they ghetto, these people are this, or that people are that. That's just how we define ourselves as humanity. So I'm going back to say that the reason why is it's taboo to be in tune with your feelings. It's really taboo to be in tune with your feelings. And that's why people will not tell you, who am I? Or if you ask them, who are you? They would not tell you, I am a dancer, I am a singer, or I enjoy to do this, I enjoy to do that. It's always about impression. We always have to impress people. We always have to make sure that we fine tune ourselves. If you notice, we're constantly editing ourselves. The reason why most of us don't know who God created us to be is because we're constantly editing the person that God created us to be in order to fit in society's narrative of who we should be.
Yeah. Well, I'm editing myself a lot of times just to keep the peace. Edit, delete, back up. Don't say that. And run it through Chat GPT to make sure it's clean. Yeah, I mean, it's exhausting, but it's like there is still a level of keeping the peace amongst the community because you're going to battle it at every level.
No. I thought that for the longest, trust me. I thought that for the longest, and trust me on that. Here's my question for you. A lot of us have a tendency to say we want to keep the peace. Mm-hmm. But what happens when you're constantly trying to keep the peace? You become at war with you.
You become at war within yourself. There's a disruptant. But I also think that there's sort of this is being former military and understanding our training. I also think there's levels to everything. Like if you're a tyrant and what happens is after a while you become a tyrant. So you're either going to battle with it or you can either ignore it. And then some other things that I've learned is as long as you know, you can even mask it. And they said a lot of times you can actually make it to the top of organizations and group by masking what you know. So give you a scenario, like say you're in a group and you know that this group is not is not, they don't really align to you for who you are, you can mask and act like them and navigate your way to the top and then change the narrative of the group. There's different ways of doing it. I remember one of the things that when I, let me get this. I remember one of the times when I had my awakening, and this was like on the church thing. And I remember as a child, I was always forced to go. And I remember that I had my awakening where you were in a marriage and I went to battle with them. And you're like, baby, just leave them alone. Don't fight with them. I was like, but I want to wake everybody else up and And like, I was bad. And that's what I was saying is there is a level where you can battle with them. And maybe that wasn't the healthy way. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can just either pull back and just live your life. And then people can see the brightness in your life. And the ones who want to they'll have the courage to step out and say, hey, I like that guy. I like what he's saying. Let me try to live my life like that. You know, that's sort of what I was saying.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But I just want to be very cautious we're already masking every day. Our goal in life is to remove the mask. We're all masking every day. The goal in life is to remove the mask and be who he created you to be, God, whoever you serve, the higher power, right? So now I'm at a space in my life where I feel like I have to edit myself to be in a group. I don't want to be there because I'm losing myself. This is where we're failing to realize. Most of our unhappiness comes from the fact that we're not in tune with ourselves. So for instance, have you ever been in a scenario, or let me give you a perfect example. If I had to go home and I decide to go to the village right now, like Iringa, where my dad was from, right? I'll probably pull up and see all these kids who don't have none of the video games that my sons have or my daughter or anything like that. But there's happiness and joy within them. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. They're actually happy.
They're actually happy. So I just want to make sure that we have to be very mindful about this masking. We're all masking every day. And that's that's the problem that a lot of us are having, right? We're trying to become somebody who does not exist.
Well, so, okay. This is about to remember the last podcast, like this is about to get deep. Okay. So do you become groupless? And let me give you some scenarios.
Don't give me a scenario. Just answer that question first. Continue asking that question.
So do you become groupless?
What does that mean?
I mean, if you are a certain way, you think a certain way, you do things that your peers or community doesn't do, it doesn't match you. And then you're like, okay, either I hang out with this group or I'm on my own. Do you become groupless? I mean, what is that?
That's a very profound question. That is such a profound question because you and I talked about it this year. Remember, I told you that I feel like I've been in solitude, right? But I thank God from where I'm at in my life. I'm not alone. I'm not lonely, you know, but yes. Do a lot of people leave you? Absolutely. You lose people the more you start finding your freedom or discovering who you are because they cannot identify with that person. And then also you start seeing people from different perspectives. So when you're hurt and all you're doing is just thinking of masking and I need to get this and I need to get that, you don't get a time to look at the different perspectives because you don't even understand yourself enough to say that bothers me. You just mask and say, I'll navigate that and get through it. But each level that you keep climbing, you keep showing up. That masked person keeps showing up. So yes, you become groupless. But I do believe that God does bring the people in your life that will help you grow. And you have people in your life that come in different seasons to help you get to a certain level. From what I have seen is the more I am truthful with myself and the more I start to understand whether it's my pain, whether it's the trauma, or whether what God has for me to do in this world, I notice that I lose people that I once thought were it, right?
Yeah.
But then also, I have deciphered that it's okay for me to lose those people because I was kind of masking myself in those relationships in order to still be loved.
Yeah.
Because never was I really being my truthful self. You understand what I'm saying? Because if those people truthfully, if they loved me for who I was and not what they could do for me, which makes them feel like they're above me, would they really live when I start unfolding?
Yeah, because
No, so I even told one of my friends the other day, I said, she's really not my friend, we're tight, like my sister. I said, thank you. Thank you for loving me, even through the times when I'm unfolding.
Yeah, because even if I'm unfolding, to me, it would have been more powerful to pick up the phone and call me up and say, hey, you feel that way?
Yeah.
Let's talk. Let's figure out what it is. And then you could have an understanding of what it is or what I said instead of creating a narrative of negativity. Because what I said wasn't meant negative. It was meant on how I feel.
Yeah. But that's what we go back to.
And that's why people are stuck.
We have to.
Wow.
It's the suppression.
Yeah. That's why everybody suppresses.
Everybody suppresses. Everybody suppresses. It's either fear of abandonment, fear of not belonging, of no longer belonging, because who are you? You know how many times people say, who does she think she is? And I ask myself, like, and most of the people who say, who does she think she is, they're actually doing better than me in life. They've been doing better than me for a long time. I think they probably say, who does she think she is? Because they see all the challenges that I go through, but God always gets me through. So instead of asking me, who do I think I am? Maybe you need to be asking, who is she serving?
Yeah.
So I can serve.
I hear that. I actually hear that a lot too. Like, who does he think he is? Or what's the other one? He thinks he's better than us. I hear those little statements a lot. Yeah. And here's the funny thing is I'm never even thinking those thoughts at all. I'm really more or less focused on my mission. My mission has me so, I'm not going to use the word clouded, but so occupied. I don't have time to think who I think I am. I don't have time to think I'm better than you. I don't have time because tomorrow I got to pay payroll, or the day later I got to pay a list of contractors, or I got jobs to close, or I got to train a new designer or train a new rep. I don't have time, or I got to learn systems on a new aircraft. I don't have time to worry about things like I think I'm better or who do I think I am. Now, I might dress a certain way, okay? And it's because I like the way I dress. I might speak a certain way because that's the way I like to speak. If I'm doing business, I want you to hear each and every word that's coming out of my mouth because that's the way contracts are done. You can't be thinking about it. So if I'm speaking well, if I'm eating good foods, and this is something you taught me, if I'm going to nice places or things like that, there's nothing wrong. I'm not downing anybody around me. These are just things that I'm allowed to have. I'm about to get really deep here, is that we are all built in God's image, okay? We are built in God's. So if God gets the best, why can't I have the best? And why should my community attempt to punish me for having the best?
Right.
Those are the things that I find mind blowing to me.
But I'll go back to when we talked about the guys, when we talk about what people said after that podcast. It's the fact that there's a lot of people walking around this earth.
That was surprising to me.
That have not felt love.
Yeah, that was surprising.
And a lot. And you and I talked about it because we have experienced. You said it your part. I could have said the same thing, which it is the same thing. You know what I mean? So what you said, that resonated with me too. It really did. And that was powerful for me. It resonated with me. You know, and I'm thinking to myself that we really have to start having these real and open conversations. We really have to let go of the fact of this fear that when I speak my truth, everybody will leave me. When I speak my truth, I will lose people. When I speak my truth, it's so crazy because otherwise, how else do we live?
Yeah.
How else are we going to live? And this is affecting us in so many different aspects of our lives, so many dynamics in our intimate relationship, in our friendships, the people that we work with. We can't even communicate. We can't even be honest because we're afraid to talk about the feeling. The feeling.
Yeah.
And in order to heal, you got to acknowledge, become aware, acknowledge it. You have to feel it so it can come through you. So you can start understanding what it feels like when you're angry. You can start to, and this is why it's important to have this conversation. It's important for people to say, wow, I never felt love. And I guarantee you, when you really dive deep and talk to those people, they'll tell you that they either didn't show their girlfriends love, their wives love, or their husbands, or their boyfriends love, because you can't give what you don't have. We had to literally, I always say we raised ourselves. We went through so many challenges up and down to be able to even get to the space.
Yeah.
To be able, sometimes I sit back, I say, wow, if it was 15 years ago and I have the wherewithal that I know now, would I still be here? You understand what I mean? This is what happens when you start becoming aware. Would I still be here? Because we didn't know what it felt like to give love, and to show love and to be loved.
Well, the capacity of love you can give another, is based on the same capacity of love that you have for yourself. So if you don't have the utmost love for yourself, you don't have the ability to give it out to somebody else. So if you, and then here's the thing is, if you've never really experienced love on that level, then how do you know to love yourself? And how do you know to love somebody else? So these are some things that should be unpacked. Like, now that I'm talking to you, there was a lot of men. It wasn't just one, two. It wasn't it wasn't the two in the exaggeration of 10. It was almost 10. It probably, if I go through my texts and my messages, it was one male after another replying back like, holy shoot, like that was deep. I had one of my family members actually called me up like 2 days later twice, like, dude, I listened to it again. He was like, I felt that way. And it's like, wow. And this is a person that's even older than me, that I wouldn't even think that had any of those feelings. Because I thought, you know how it is, you thought those feelings are only yours.
Yeah, that's why.
And nobody else has it. And so you're living with it. Yeah.
So you're living with it. You don't want to talk about it because you're embarrassed, because you think something is wrong with me. Why I'm feeling this way. No, that's not the truth. We all have these feelings. We just don't talk about it. I'm glad that now we're starting to talk more about the trauma. We're starting to talk more about healing. We're starting to talk more about relationships, how we show up in relationships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How we show up in the relationship for ourselves. I always say that the best knowledge that any human being can obtain in life is the knowledge of self. It's the knowledge of self.
Yeah. Yeah, Kurt and them always talks about that, or Barbara, as they always talk about the knowledge of self. I remember I used to talk about that all the time. I didn't even understand what they were saying.
It's the knowledge of self.
Yeah.
That's the most important knowledge we can all get, is the knowledge of self. But we have been convinced that when we become so good at everything outside of ourselves, that's where society praises us. When we become good at everything outside of ourselves.
Explain that. Explain that.
We're taught to validate ourselves through everything external.
So like the money, the cars, the clothes, all that. Okay.
But those are things we can't control. Those are things that can be stripped from us anytime. Anytime. Right? And then you lose your mind. I always talk about Robin Williams. How can somebody be a comedian and yet commit suicide?
Yeah.
This is the guy that made us laugh and yet commit suicide, because this stuff is real. We have to start talking about this. People are committing suicide. People are living with depression. People are living with anxiety. It's not only because they can't pay the next bill or they can't get to where they need to be. It's really mostly because it's the war within myself of who am I to become?
Yeah.
But then there comes the problem. Some of us were never showed love. So we don't know how to love ourselves. We don't know how to love other people. And then there comes the problem. I can't think a certain way because of the environment that I was raised in. So there's so many things that people battle. And that's why when you listen to people, spiritual teachers, they'll tell you, it's the inner work. Because when you get grounded within yourself, it doesn't matter how the wind blows, left, right, front, center, you still be grounded within yourself because you understand that everything outside of yourself is temporary. Yeah,
that was actually one of the issues that you had to coach me through. And I don't think you knew I was dealing with it, but I didn't even know I was dealing with it when it was happened. But one of the things that I see that when we said, let's go. Like when we really said, let's go, and we moved, we we went all gung ho on business life, all in this. I remember hearing like the little funny comments, or whenever you go back to your community, sort of, I hear the words Trump or things like that. These little smart little comments, sly comments, and it's like you're pulling away. And they're seeing you're pulling away, but it's not that you're pulling away from anything. You're just doing it another way. You're not pulling it away at all. But they in their head say you're pulling away, and they start treating you a certain way. And it was one of the things that I would, as long as I always had, remember I used to tell you, as long as I always had a fat bank account, a lot of money in the bank, I would be okay.
Good. Yeah.
I would be okay.
Good.
And like, no. One of the things about business, we all had our ups and downs. And whenever we would have our down cycle, I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
Because I felt like as long as I was balling, or use the word financially stable, I was okay. I could navigate the racism, then I can navigate the negative comments that I get from, the upbringing, from the peers. I can navigate that. And that was like sort of my better protection. And just like just in business, you're going to have your ups and down cycles. And I remember the last down cycle, it was bad, and it actually lasted longer than I wanted it to last. I was going crazy.
Yeah, I know you were.
I was going crazy. Yeah. I was going through a depression and everything. And the crazy part is, I don't even want to say the number, but we still hit numbers that are insane.
So it's not even about the numbers, not even interested about that. Going back to your point. Yeah, you were going crazy because you have conditioned yourself. We all have been, and we're all in this cycle. You believed, I don't know if you still do, but you say, obviously, me having this conversation with you is making you look at it different, that if I don't have these things externally, I can't even function.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's how it was.
Can't even function. And I remember you would come in and say, babe, blah, 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 is going on. Then you're like, that's what happens, we're married, so we're working together, work home 24/7. And I remember I just had surgery, and you would come home. Of course, I'm worried about the office. I'm not working. And it's like, oh my God, you would come home and be like, babe, this and this is going on. Oh, and I say, oh, it'll be okay. Mm-hmm. It'll be okay. And I remember one day you said, how could you just say it'll be okay? And I remember responding to you saying, look at how far I've come. I'm afraid to not believe.
Mm-hmm. Do I remember you saying that?
I am afraid to not believe. Look at how far I am. But to go to your point, that's what I'm trying to make society understand. I love nice things. I love nice things. I do. Like, I love nice things. I love to be in nice things. But what I also understand now, which I thank God for, is that everything outside of me, it just enhances my life. It's just extra. Mm-hmm. What's inside of me, the God in me, or whoever you guys serve, that's what I need to tap into. That's what keeps me grounded. That's what allows me to be able to learn about who I am so that I can navigate into this world. Because Isabel Draughon was navigating the world as a victim, an abandoned person, a person who doesn't belong, a person who was rejected. And I used to say this all the time. And I remember my sis Nyangé always used to say, stop saying that, a child who was born out of wedlock, right? And I used to say it so casually, but I never realized that I identified myself as that. So even when I was in surroundings with other people, I was always on the outside because I always felt I came from the outside. So I never belonged.
As if you had a choice.
As if I had a choice.
Just that right there alone is crazy. As if you had a choice.
As if I had a choice. So then I started looking, and that's when God showed me something different too. I started looking at all my different relationships, and most of my relationships and friendships, they were viewing me as a victim. And that's the worst feeling. And that's what God showed me, right? So people view you as a victim, and they feel when they do this and this and this and this and this for you, oh, Bella will be fine. But Bella is, oh, Bella, you're so special. But Bella is the victim.
But the victimhood sells so well.
It does not.
No. I'm trying to say it actually sells to society so well. That's why a lot of people play victim. And the thing is, this is what I think. I think life is tough. Life is not easy. And the reason why a lot of people ride this victim route is because if they fall short, They can always be a victim of something. And I think that's why that becomes a narrative of a lot of people. It's sold. That's what I think. Like it's sold. Like I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or mess anybody. You know how you have to give these disclaimers sometimes, but I see a lot of, especially the handicap stickers. Okay. And I see people who are not handicapped and they'll use that sticker just to get that parking spot. I'm like, why do you want to keep selling that narrative? Like, even if I was, I probably, you know what I mean? You would have to force it in my window and go from there. Like, even think about the military and stuff like that. I do have disabilities and stuff like from the military, but the world doesn't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? I deal with it from the VA, do my thing and have my visits from time to time, and I keep moving. But I'm not putting that out there. The reason why I can't, because I could have done that for piloting. The reason why I could not get my license is because of this. But I fought a 3-year battle.
But sometimes people, you don't even realize that you're being a victim. That's the thing. And that's why I always say, for me, I'm always gentle with people because I have to give people grace, because there's so many years I was functioning from a victim space that I didn't even realize that I was functioning from a victim space, to the point that God showed me that I wanted belonging so bad, that I wanted relationships so bad. But then what happens is that when they don't work out, I'm like, oh my God, what happened? But what God showed me was I had an idea. Because of being a victim, you always want this peace, and I'm an empath. So I have an idea of what I want my relationships to be like. But what God showed me is, honey, the only control you have is over you. So you have this idea, but these other people are showing up differently in your life. And then you're the one getting upset. You're the one saying things are not working out. You're the one over here complaining. That's because you have created an idea of what you think your relationships should be like.
Shouldn't it be an idea?
Huh?
Shouldn't it be an idea? Is that some? Should it be an idea? Should I have an idea of how our relationship is supposed to be?
I think we can have an idea, but to me, it was to my detriment. I think I was trying to create so much peace and make everybody happy and all that kind of stuff, and try to create this environment where we're all loving and we're all happy and we're all whatever. You can't be the only one doing it. You know what I mean?
That's actually how I felt last week.
You cannot be the only one doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I go back to say it's the feeling. It's all these things that people called and talked about this. And that's why we have to have this relation. We have to have these conversations. Yeah. It's deeper than that. There is so much to unpack. I always tell you, I say, the older I get, I'm starting to discover that my life is more about unlearning than it is learning.
When you said that, I lost it, and I think we were Club Garage, as people know. We were just hanging out, chilling and relaxing on the back patio, chilling. And you had said one of the things about life is I learned that we had to spend more time unlearning. And when that hit me everywhere. That hit me church. It hit me school. It hit me every business. It hit me everywhere. Like, we have to unlearn all that BS that we were taught. We have to unlearn it. Yeah, it was a lot of BS. Yeah,
I don't have to deal with the abuse because we have a bloodline running through us. Yeah. I don't have to deal with the abuse because at some point in life you felt you helped me.
Yeah,
and you're always putting me as this person who needs help. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. I don't have to deal with that abuse because you don't like the way I show up in life. No, it's okay that you're no longer my friend. It's okay that you're no longer my colleague. All of these things are okay because the more I'm starting to realize I can't evolve and be around the same people for the rest of my life. No, I can't. It's not that way. But at the end of the day, honestly, I want to be in a space where it's reciprocal. My relationships.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to be in spaces where, for me, it's easier because I'm an empath. So we talk about this all the time. One thing I don't do is judge. We talk about it all the time. You're like, hey, you don't judge. I thank God for that.
You judge my outfits in the morning.
I judge your outfits. Okay, that's your outfits. Because I and my baby look good. But I don't like to judge people. Like, I don't be like, oh, this person is like this person is like that. I really don't. And I thank God for that. I truly do. Maybe it's because of I've been judged a lot, but I think it's so rough for human beings. We're trying to navigate this life every day. And then being around people who constantly judge you. You're not smart enough, you're not good enough, or the way you speak is not good enough, or the way you enunciate is not good enough. It's not always trying to live on these people's
Yeah, it almost reminds me of this thing I was talking about. It was a speaking class, and he said, a lot of people are focused on, they'll have the cameras pointing towards them when they're speakers, and they'll listen to themselves speak and watch themselves speak. And he said, what the speaker said is, what you really need to do is put the cameras on the audience.
Yeah.
And listen to what you say and how you pronounce and how it moves the audience. And that sort of had me thinking about what you just said right there. You know what I mean? It's like, we're so worried about what these people are saying or doing. And we're how do I say this? How do I do this? Yeah. And like the conversation that I had this week, it actually freed me in a way, because it was actually said. I actually said the words is, now I don't have to act anymore.
No.
Like, and honestly, you called me up. You was very rude to me. You had some very nasty words to say, and I sort of unleashed and let go. But one of the things that I did say is, now I don't have to act. So thank you for freeing. So now I don't have to act like that everything's cool, act like you're going to say these certain things or needing to say, because one thing I learned is I have to say and be a certain way in order to get approval. And so in that sort of, it's not me anyway. And like, enough is enough.
A lot of people.
Yeah, that's enough.
The reason why people contacted us.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's the reason why we have to have these relationships. Why are people having issues in their marriages? Why have we had issues in our marriages? Because you came with your own baggage. Mm-hmm. I came with my own baggage. Imagine being a woman who feels like she's rejected, who doesn't feel any type of belonging. So obviously my self-esteem was low. Obviously I was straight survival mode. You met me in survival mode. So it's either let's get on this bandwagon or get out of my way. I got my baby. You know what I mean? I got this going on. So it's that.
Yeah, we got so much to talk about in these podcasts.
I know, so much to talk about that we have to finish. We have to finish and break it off. But I'll let you actually wrap it up. But I just wanted to say that I think I was excited that people actually contacted us and they talked about this, because we need to really talk about how we're feeling. A lot of people are walking around with masks. A lot of people walking around suppressed. And people think when I tell people to use their voice, I'm not saying go around telling people off. I'm not saying go around telling people all your business. All I'm saying is speak your truth. If this does not work for you, speak it. Hey guys, I can't join you guys. This is not for me. If you're having conflict within your relationship, start having those conversations with your wife, because maybe now you're thinking like, dang, maybe I'm not loving my wife right. Maybe I'm not showing her love, or maybe I'm not showing my husband love because I was never taught how to love. Most of us are not taught how to love. Hell, men are taught not to cry. So how do you have a human being in a relationship with another human being when they're taught the very thing that cleanses our soul, the very thing that gives us the relief, the very thing that just allows us to let go and let God? Men are told you are not allowed to cry. Where do they do that at? It doesn't even make sense. So I'll let you close it out. But I just want to say I'm going to keep having those conversations. And this is what Loud Whisper is about. We're going to have the deep, vulnerable conversations, and we're going to help people really embark on this journey. I would rather be around people who are healing than people who are wearing masks.
Yeah, I'm not really the closer person, because I really don't know what to say how to close. This is your podcast. You close very well.
I'll close.
I will drop a piece, and this goes for the entrepreneurs, the artists, the singers, the sports people, and if they're pursuing their dream, don't stop based on what your community has for you. Because something huge that I learned, it was really eye-opening that I learned last week, is that we are heavily controlled by our community. And the moment that we want to do something that's not community-based, a lot of our communities will turn our back on us. And what happened was that either creates depression, because here's the thing is, as you rise in that level, regardless if it's business, success, art, or whatever, you're going to have your hardships. You're going to have your ups and downs. And when you don't have your community to reach upon, you could reach to drugs, to alcohol. You could reach to other people who actually destroy you most. And I want to give you guys some words of encouragement, because I lived it and I'm even living it now in this life, is that because Isabel and I decided to pursue this world of business, there's like a very harsh tone that you get from people, and there's a lot of things that I choose not to. I don't choose to be a part of the religion. I don't choose to be a part of certain things. I choose to be my own path, and so because of that, you're labeled and you have to do this thing on your own. So if I had to close the podcast, I would say pursue, push, and try to find like-mindeds in the world that you're in, because they're out there. I mean, there's aliens exist here and there. We're out here floating around, and just pursue on your own. You don't really need those people to validate you. You could do it on your own, and you can find some people out there, and I'll let you close.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's so real, right? So you just have to, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's very lonely. You feel like you're out here in this world. But if I remember correctly, I know you've read a lot of books too. Most of successful entrepreneurs have said they had to leave where they were from in order to get what they needed to get, and then they come back. I think I've heard Oprah say that. I've heard Diana Van say that, and
I'm living that.
Oh, you're living it. Yeah, I've heard.
You're living it too.
Same side. Oh yeah, I've lived it for years. Yeah, I've lived it. You and I were talking about it yesterday. I have lived it for years. I have been blessed though that God always puts people in my life at every stage to kind of help me go to the next level. But it's the idea of the knowing. Your knowing is inaccessible. What you've always known is no longer available. That's the hardest part about my journey. I always feel like I'm always climbing the ladder by myself. And everybody else is saying, why the hell are you doing that? Why is she doing this? Why didn't she do this? Or they get to treat me how they want to treat me. I'll deal with you when I can deal with you. Let me just deal with these other people first, then I'll deal with you. So with you saying that, I think it's an amazing close. Here is the thing. This is your journey. It is your path. It's not going to be easy. And the higher you go, the more difficult it gets. I mean, the more difficult it gets, not just relationship-wise. You start second-guessing yourself. And then especially if you're not supported, it gets really lonely. You have moments where you're like, am I doing the right thing? You know, am I saying the right thing? I was afraid when I started doing even the loud whisper stuff, right? I was being a little bit more vulnerable. And normally, especially in my culture, keep quiet. Don't say what happened inside the house. Don't say it on the outside. Don't do this or don't do that. But what I'm starting to learn too now is like, I'm having these conversations with my kids because I don't want them, when I die, I don't want them to go through these things, you know? So with that being said, it's truly about understanding yourself. It's truly about getting to know yourself so you can become the person that God designed for you to be. And the people that are for you, they'll really come for you. They will be there for you. The difference is they just don't look the same.
Yeah.
And it's scary, right? Because there are two paths in life. There's the path that we know, that's known, it's common, it's familiar. But then there's the other path, the unknown, where there's certainty, but yet there is so much possibility. The unknown side does not look like the known side. So even sometimes as God is trying to nudge us, we start pushing back because we're afraid to go alone. Who wants to fly alone? That's scary because when you're coming down and you're going to fail, because you and I have failed numerous times, and every time we come down, lucky enough, we never have people around us. They tell us we're failing even as we're climbing. So as we're coming down, you see everybody else who told you, I told you so, I told you so. That's why we all get stuck in the familiarity of what we always know and not move to the unknown. So I want to empower all the people that you just told today, the entrepreneurs, the creators, and everybody, actually every human being. Dare yourself to step into the unknown. That's where you start living. It's the unknown. The very thing you're afraid to do it. The very people you're afraid to leave them, right? The very thing that you want to start it. But we have to start teetering into unknown because that's where God resides. Right there is where your life, the freedom life begins. Not the constrained life. The constrained life is comfortable because we know it. We know the pain. We know the abuse. I know how this abuse feels like and I'll deal with it. Like you say, I'll put on the mask and navigate it, right? But each time you put on the mask and navigate it, what you do, you hit a brick wall because the mask becomes too much. So let's start leaning into the unknown. Let's start trusting and having faith and leaning into the unknown. Like I told my husband, God has brought me this far. I'm too afraid to not believe. Believe that the unknown will set you free. Right? Why are you looking like that?
I was ending. I didn't want to say anything.
Oh.
I thought it was it.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So on that note, thank you guys. As always, I always close it up as you should always remember a few things. Number one, you are enough just as you are. You are enough just as you are. You have the capability to be anything and anyone you want to be in life. But most importantly, as you navigate this following week, please remember the same compassion that you're showing everybody else at home, at work, or just everywhere. Please have that compassion for yourself. Everything starts with you. Thank you for listening, guys, and watching us until next time. Thank you, Mr. Draughon.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right, guys, till next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Loud Whisper Reignite Your Voice podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a conversation. I would also be honored if you would consider leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts. As always, you can connect with me through the links in the description. Thanks again for listening. We're so glad you could join us today and look forward to supporting you on your greatest journey. Have a great day.